We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. No. Floyd Schofield, I told him, you should not fight Shakur. You should wait. Oscar, I do believe De La Hoya admits what your boy Ego has been telling you, that he ain't really want the Shakur Stevenson fight for Floyd Schofield at this point. Oh yeah. In case you didn't know, I'm about to talk my ish. Welcome. In a brand new interview with Fight Hub TV, Oscar De La Hoya, he spilled the beans. In this interview, I will read a quote from him, and it proves everything that I've told you, but more on that shortly. De La Hoya says, and I quote, "I was the first one to say, we have to wait." So, just off rip, the opening quote let you know he really didn't want the fight. He said he was the first to say, we have to wait. We have a plan for you and we have a strategy for you. But the father, Floyd Schofield Sr., was very adamant. The father in particular was the one that wanted this fight. For my taste, it was a little too ambitious, but they know exactly what they're doing. The father, Schofield Sr., knows his son. We know his ability inside the ring. Is it too early? Maybe. Is it the right time? Who knows? Only Kid Austin inside the ring. Only Kid Austin knows inside the ring that night. So, your boy Ego is on fire. I'm on the money yet again. The reason I was skeptical of this fight happening is because I thought Oscar would veto anything that the Schofields were talking about. If you listen to before the fight was actually made official and announced on the poster, right? I told you guys that I didn't think the fight was going to happen. So in that, I was wrong because the fight is happening according to the flyer. However, much of what I said outside of it, if it's happening and if it's scheduled, came true. I told you, Golden Boy, Oscar, they did not want this. This reminds me of Ryan Garcia, right? Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis, of course. De La Hoya did not want Ryan Garcia to fight Gervonta Davis at that particular point. They fought in 2023. He didn't want it. I firmly believe that. I stated that. I said that. That's why you see so many excuses about rehydration clause and Ryan was drained and all this stuff after the fact. Because now that Ryan quit in that fight, got dropped, got stopped, showed he wasn't on Tank's level, then in come the excuses. And I think the same will go for February 22nd with Floyd Schofield. Make no mistake about it, from the inception of this fight, I told you that this fight is kind of overhyped, if you will, right? And let me explain it. When you have a fight like Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, people had wanted to see that fight 5-6 years. These are two of the best of my generation. They're anomalies. So yeah, people needed to see that fight. Pacquiao had sold 1 million+ homes on his own. Floyd had clearly sold 1 million+ homes on his own. They're similar age, like enough of a similar age, not like some Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, 30-year+ age gap type of business. So it was a fight that needed to happen, right? And other big fights that have happened, that's usually the case. This fight, I always said I'm rocking with Shakur from day one, even before day one, because I was saying it before the fight was actually confirmed. I said, normally I don't give fight predictions unless the fight's signed, but this is an easy fight for me to predict. So in the fact that they make it, because they said they were getting close, which they eventually, did come to terms. I don't see my opinion likely changing. Based on this interview, it only signals to me that I'm on the right track and that Ego Stradamus will strike again. If I were rooting for Floyd Schofield, I would be very worried based on what De La Hoya is saying. He says, and I quote, I'm going to reread the quote from this new interview. For my taste, it was a little too ambitious. So what I like to do is once I've read the complete quote, I like to pull quotes from within that. Reason being, people, when they're telling the truth, like an Oscar, it's a lot of filler. So the truth will be one sentence, but then there's 5 filler sentences, and you got to look within to find that one sentence where they're being sincere and honest and not trying to say the right things. Like me, I don't worry about saying the right things. I'm going to say what I want. I'm going to do what I want. You, as a fan, you can love it, you can hate it, you can shove it up your... I don't really care. I'm telling you my opinion, right? I don't worry about saying it perfect or who's going to get mad. I mean, what man does that? But in the business of business and a promoter, of course, you don't want to offend your fighter. So you might walk on eggshells and not keep it all the way a stack with them. Luckily, I have in my personal life friends that no matter what successes I've received or continue to receive in the future, they'll always keep it real with me. And that's how you know you have a good circle, because they'll tell you the right thing, not just what you want to hear. So for me, I'm just pulling quotes from the complete quote, and these are the truthful points that Oscar said. The rest was just filler. He says, I was the first one to say it. We have to wait. For my taste, it was a little too ambitious, right? Is it too early? Maybe. Is it the right time? Who knows? So all that other stuff was, Floyd Sr. knows his son better than anyone, and only Kid Austin knows on that night. All that was filler. The real pull quotes were what I just read and told you. So per usual, Boxing Ego, the statement that I said, I'm standing on it, and I don't really feel like I made the wrong pick by picking Shakur Stevenson. These statements from De La Hoya don't sound too good if you're expecting a fight. This to me sounds like they convinced me that they wanted it, and maybe there would have been friction if I got in the way and prevented it. So we just pulled the trigger. But this truly sounds like another instance where Golden Boy wanted to develop Kid Austin and then maybe one day fight bigger names, but they feel it's way premature. How could you possibly be comfortable given Shakur is bigger, given Shakur has more experience, given that Shakur is a scientific fighter, given that Shakur is a silver medalist and Olympian, and he's sparred and trained under and been around the best in the world, Andre Ward, Terrence Crawford, Floyd Sr., well, not Floyd Sr. as much, but Floyd Mayweather, right, etc. And then now your own promoter is saying, is it too soon? Maybe. Is it too early? So this doesn't give me any faith. You guys were the ones that overhyped this fight and said that this was the greatest card you had ever seen and heard of in boxing history and all that. But for me, this just solidifies that this is not a ready-made fight. Certain fights, like, they just make all the sense in the world. Like, even fights like Floyd Mayweather and Diego Corrales, they were both undefeated. It made sense. People said it didn't make sense for Floyd, and he's the one that went on to drop Diego Chico Corrales, rest in peace, about 4 times and win the fight. But that was a fight where everybody knew who Floyd was. He had already beaten Gennaro Hernandez, and everybody knew who Diego Corrales was. And they were both Olympians, US Olympians, etc. So the fight still made sense. This fight, especially coming off of Floyd Schofield's most vulnerable performance, sounds pretty stupid to me if we're really being honest. The other thing, because he fought Rene Euron and got dropped and hurt in the fight, and he didn't get a knockout like he had been doing. So the timing is all bad, but people graze over that because of trash talk and this, that, and the third. The other thing I've noticed, as of me recording this video, the Schofields were talking spicy. They were talking crazy about Shakur Stevenson to get the fight. Like, when the fight hadn't been confirmed, when it hadn't been made official with the flyer and all that, they were talking insane. Like, Shakur, who is Shakur beat? Shakur ain't done nothing. Shakur ain't okay, Shakur, like, show me then. Like, you know, all this sassy talk about how pretty much Shakur wasn't it. Now that the fight is signed, you're not even really hearing nothing from the Schofields. They're like, oh, thanks Shakur for the opportunity. Let's settle this like men in the ring. It's like, it's a whole different attitude. It's like some Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde bipolar type of stuff, which also doesn't fare well to me because I'm a type of, you know, keep the same energy type of person. If you were talking that greasy to get the fight, you might as well just keep going down that trend, because Shakur done heard everything you had to say. And I know he's probably training to really, this is one of his bigger names and, you know, a guy that some people think is a threat to him. So I know Shakur's going to be locked in, you know, getting some tutelage from Terrence Crawford and doing what he normally does, train hard for the moment to shut people up, right? And I think on February 22nd, he will do it. But between the Schofield's energy changing after they got the fight and what Oscar is saying, like, I was the first to say we have to wait. It doesn't seem like the fight needed to be made. It looked like this is a rush job, and it's like pulling out, let's say you're cooking some meat, right? You're cooking some meat, a pot roast or something. It's a big, thick roast. You cook it a big, thick meat. Definitely double pause, triple pause, because that sounds crazy. Pausity, pause, pause. But you're cooking this rump roast, pause again, cooking, you know, pot roast or whatever, and you don't utilize any kind of thermometer, meat thermometer or anything, and you cut into the center and it's not cooked, right? Or if somebody made you some chicken and then you cut it and it looked like it has like veins and blood in it, and you're like, nah, I'm not eating this. You know, this doesn't look done. That's this fight to me. It's a fight that down the line, if they both were in their winning ways, probably would have made sense. Right now, you know, at the top of 2025, to me, it never really made sense. And I said that from the beginning, and now Oscar is proving me right, in my opinion, by saying he was the first to say, we have to wait. We have a plan for you. We have a strategy for you. That doesn't sound confident. It doesn't. Oscar is a gold medalist. He's a former fighter. He knows that about boxing. So if your own promoter is talking like this and saying that he was hesitant and he initially didn't want the fight, but it was the daddy who insisted, then to me, that don't give me no type of confidence at all. What it sounds like, and I think a lot of people are gonna start believing this, is the Schofields had never made probably $1 million. You know, I'm not in people's finances like that, but I think given the competition, given the promoter they're with, they probably haven't made $1 million. Turkey is handing out money like Skittles. Taste the rainbow, right? They saw opportunity to clear, you know, X amount of money, and they like their chances. I'm not saying that they're not going to train or try to hurt Shakur or whatever, but I think the paycheck has a lot to do with it, because I think the Schofields are probably looking at it like worst case scenario is we lose, but they don't believe Shakur has enough power to stop Floyd Schofield. So maybe they think they can win. That's fine, whatever. Fighters are delirious. Even if they can't win, they have belief. But I think they also know that deep down inside, or at least believe that, yo, worst case scenario, people say Shakur has pillow fist. He couldn't stop Artem Haratunian, Robson Conceição. He couldn't stop Edwin De Los Santos. So they're probably liking their chances in that regard where, hey, we sparred you. My son has power, pretty explosive. Maybe they think from that they know some of his vulnerabilities, which again, sparring is completely different than under the lights. But whatever. Worst case scenario, Shakur's not knocking us out and we cleared $1 million. That's the mentality that I believe the Schofields have is, yeah, we like our chances, but even in the event, worst case scenario, they don't think they could get stopped by Shakur. Now it'll be up to Shakur to prove that wrong. He just had hand surgery and all that. So we gonna see. February 22nd, we gonna see if Oscar being apprehensive, your boy Ego saying the fight really is not really a ready-made, marinated fight. For me, this is what's wrong with boxing, people. This new age of boxing is kind of watered down at the moment, where you got fights that really don't make too much sense, but the business might be viable, or the people in the business think it makes sense, and then they'll make it. But it kind of waters down the sport. Shakur is so far along in his career, you know, he should be fighting Devin Haney, Tank, guys like that. A guy like Keyshawn, who's never been a champion, and Floyd Schofield, I feel like they are closer to should be fighting each other than Shakur's quote unquote brother, Keyshawn, or Keyshawn's quote unquote brother, Shakur. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's what I'm noticing in boxing. Sometimes boxing gets it right. Like David Benavidez and David Morrell. That's an example of getting it right. Yes, Morrell doesn't have that many fights himself, but he has an amateur career. There's been some buildup for the last year and a half plus, and there's no one else that is a better fight outside of Better Bevo 2 winner. But if Morrell and Benavidez are fighting top of the year, and the Better Bev is scheduled to rematch Bevo in February the same month, then they couldn't have fought anyway. So these are to me, the best fights you can make at light heavyweight between Morrell and Benavidez and Bevo Better Bev rematch. Then the winners can meet. So you see it all adds up, because that's like in February, you have a light heavyweight tournament unbeknownst to some fans. You got a fight that there can be only one in both of those matches. Hopefully the winners fight. Speaking of, to me, I feel that Better Bevo, the first fight, was another example of a fight that is right on time. The time they fought is the time that needed to happen. Better Bev cleaned out the division, had all the belts except for the Bevo belt. Bevo had been winning, beat Canelo, beat Zurdo Ramirez. They needed to fight right then and there. Just like Benavidez Morrell fight, the Better Bevo fight, right on time, perfect timing. So those are examples of boxing getting it right to me. There was no one really else for Bevo to fight outside of Better Bev at that particular moment. Same thing with like Usyk Fury. Those are the fights that needed to happen, right? So I don't have problems with those type of fights. But I don't see the same, I don't have the same interest level as some people in the Shakur Schofield fight. The other thing is, this stylistically could be a fight that doesn't live up, because you have a youngin who's explosive in Schofield with power and speed, and then you have a Shakur Stevenson who's defensive minded, trying to get hit with certain shots, might not engage. So it could just be like a fight similar to the Edwin De Los Santos fight. So for me, I haven't been as hyped as some people for this particular fight, you know? And I guess to me, to change my mind, it's totally up on the Schofields to do some things that I don't think they're prepared to do. So maybe they could prove me wrong. We'll see in February. But they're gonna have to fight a super aggressive fight, not get hurt, not get stopped, not get countered, hurt Shakur. You know, they're gonna have to do a lot of things right, because Shakur clearly has the experience. And Shakur, no one on his side, his grandfather, Terrence Crawford, nobody is saying what De La Hoya is saying about Schofield. Like, I was the first to say, Shakur, we have to wait. Nobody's saying that. See, I put stuff in a perspective that you can't deny. Only one team seems hesitant, Only one team seems apprehensive. For me, that is not a good sign. Nobody on Shakur's side, nobody that's like in his inner circle, like Keyshawn, Crawford, you know, his Moses or whatever, his grandfather, Andre Ward, you know, whoever. Nobody is saying Shakur ain't ready for this. But your own promoter, De La Hoya, is telling Fight Hub that about Schofield. And he's saying, is it too early? Maybe. Is it the right time? Who knows? That don't give me no confidence. I don't know where y'all are from, but where I'm from, that does not instill confidence. Somebody, your own promoter, talking about, is it the right time? Who knows? Floyd Mayweather, one of the GOATs. There's never been a fight where Floyd Sr. or rest in peace, Roger Mayweather, who he beat, ain't beat nobody. Okay, then. Said no like that. Said, hey, should Floyd be fighting Maidana? Like, I'm talking about a fight that's already signed. A fight that Floyd agreed to, like Maidana, and then Floyd Sr. or Rogers talking about, is it too early? Maybe. Is it the right time? Who knows? You've never seen that. The time you see that is usually the side that lacks the confidence. Like Canelo's side probably said that when they were facing Floyd. Like, is it the right time? And is it too early? Is Canelo prepared for this? You never heard Floyd Sr., even young in his career. Because I'm talking about the examples I just gave were like older Floyd, like Canelo and Maidana. That's Money Mayweather Floyd. Even in his pretty boy Floyd stages, nobody on Floyd's team, Jeff Mayweather, Roger, Floyd Sr., nobody was talking like that. Floyd's team was about action. They weren't like, oh, should we fight Zab Judah? I don't know. Maybe it's too early to detect. Who knows? They weren't talking like that for Arturo Gatti and Chico Corrales. So I don't like it. Straight up. I don't like that De La Hoya even did this interview and said these things. You agreed to the fight. They agreed to the fight. Enjoy your money. Enjoy Riyadh season. And, you know, prove people like me wrong, because I don't see Schofield winning. I see Shakur winning. This is why I do the Unpacked. There's a lot of low quality content that you can find. You got people like just rushing out content just for the sake to say I talked about it. Me, I break it down. I'm taking my time with it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this format, so you get a real conversation. I could do, look how long this video has been. I could do 1 million 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute, 5-minute videos just blabbering real quick just to get something out on the channel. But that's not what we do here. I'm the best in the business and it's not even close. So I'm using my voice. I'm using my influence. I'm using my thoughts, my craft to break stuff down. And regarding Shakur Schofield, I don't have the same excitement at all that some people have, because I think, like I said earlier in this video, boxing is getting watered down, where if it makes dollars, it makes sense, which is cool. But in real life, it don't make sense. Like they're talking about Jake Paul, Roy Jones Jr. Didn't I just say that? It takes some time. Okay, baby. There's Pensacola in the hat. Didn't I just say I'm gonna fight Jake Paul? I didn't say I wouldn't. They'll fight me, Jake Paul. You see, Barack Obama, yeah, go Trump. Donald Trump. Trump couldn't do that. Barack Obama could. Like, don't do that. Like, Jake Paul versus Roy Jones, another person who's like older. We just seen Mike Tyson, another person who's not only older, a veteran and legend, but smaller than Jake Paul at this current moment in time. So again, these type of fights keep popping up. And again, I watched it, I get it. But for me, certain things, they're not even ready-made fights and people are just trying to book it. And that's one of the things that I've expressed with Riyadh season and Turkey coming in with all the money that he's coming in and just willy-nilly making these fights. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to a lot of these fights. On paper, yes, you may know this guy's name. Yes, you may know this guy's name. But there's no real career arc for a lot of these Riyadh season fights where it even makes sense. For example, Floyd Schofield, you could develop him, which clearly Oscar was trying to do. He says, we have a plan for you. We have a strategy for you. But the father was very adamant, right? So the father just insisting. But you could have allowed Golden Boy to build him a few more fights, step up his competition, but that's not what's happening. You're going from 0 to 100. Just think about what I'm saying to you, people. It's like you don't know how to drive that good. You're 15 years old, 16 years old, first learning to drive. I've done it. I've been there, done that, so I can speak to it. Day one, you don't parallel park. You don't even know how to drive. Why are you worried about parallel parking? That's more of an advanced move. You got to get the basic. You have to know where the gear shift is. You got to know how to adjust your mirror and put on your seatbelt before you start driving. Day one, they don't take you on the freeway, right? You don't even know about accelerating, and some people confuse the pedals and hit the wrong pedal and speed up when they meant to brake, right? You don't even know the road sign. That's this fight to me, right? You're expecting Floyd Schofield, a student driver, to go on the freeway and parallel park day one. So, in my opinion, boxing before was never like that. You had Shane Mosley, who's destroying all lightweights. No one can uck with him. He's on a different level. Shout out to my boy Shane Mosley. Then he got a couple of tune-up fights at welterweight. Then he fought De La Hoya. That's boxing. That's how you develop and build a fighter. 35, there's no match for Shane. So he jumped, skipped a weight class or whatever, and started pursuing tune-ups, and then did the 2 fights with Oscar De La Hoya. That's how you should do it. Floyd Schofield is getting dropped by Euron. His next fight, he fighting an Olympian who's hard to hit because they sparred and because, as Oscar says, the daddy was very adamant. Bro, whatever. So I can't wait. I'm gonna be right or I'm gonna be wrong. Some people are like, oh, Ego, you're gonna see. Oh, Ego, you're gonna be so wrong. February 22nd, I'm coming back to your channel. Please do, because I could be wrong, but I could be real right as well. But I will say, what De La Hoya said in this new interview is not making me regret anything that I said doubting this fight. Talking about we have a strategy for you. This sounds like Ryan Garcia versus Tank talk. De La Hoya ain't want that fight, which is what I said, and now you see why when they fought. They weren't ready for it. Tank and Ryan were beefing so heavily on social media, they agreed to meet up in LA and spar and do a sparring session. Golden Boy got in the middle and said no and ex-nayed that, and then the sparring never happened. Just like when Oscar did the interview with ES News and they said, is Ryan ready for Tank? And Oscar was like, no, Tank's a beast. Told me everything. You don't want to fight. Ryan was ambitious. He wanted the money. He wanted to fight. He did poorly in the fight. And then the excuses came out. And I think Shakur is just too experienced, too fresh. Like, Shakur ain't never been beat up. I mean, you could say I wasn't entertained and all this stuff, but nobody mollywopped him. He ain't been getting dropped. He ain't like had a bad training camp. He ain't like, he missed weight, yes, but he never came in where it looked like he had a beer belly, things like that. So for me, Shakur don't really show me any warning signs that he wouldn't be ready for this moment, And again, I think people underestimate the power of experience. Experience means so much in the sport of boxing. Like, imagine somebody coming to do my job and they just started YouTubing 2 weeks ago. I mean, good luck. Because the stuff I didn't learn the hard way over multiple years. I'm several algorithms in at this point. YouTube done changed the algorithm 1 million plus times. Some people get on YouTube and it looks like their channel is smoking. But then after they start lying and clickbaiting and not being reliable, I've always seen slowly but surely those channels kind of go away because it doesn't make sense anymore. Their audience tap out and be like, oh, this person's a liar. I can't count on any of the information. I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? So experience truly matters. Truly matters because you kind of been there, done that. And say what you will about Shakur and runners. And, you know, I keep it fair. I've had criticism for Shakur for certain things, but I also keep it real with what Shakur is. He's an acquired taste, pause, but his style of fighting is an acquired taste. It's not going to be for everybody, but for him, it is efficient and it's effective, and he captures the W. That's it. So I'm not saying that this is going to be a barn burner, because stylistically, it has a great chance of being the opposite, like the De Los Santos fight. So for me, I just think Oscar solidified how I always felt about this fight, even before it was finalized for sure, by saying what he said. You know, the father was adamant. I was saying to wait. We have a plan for you. You never want to hear that from a promoter. That, like, how come PBC didn't tell David Benavidez, oh no, don't fight Morrell. We have a plan for you. I want you to wait. If they're saying that, that means they do not have faith in you. There's no way around it. So the dad can say whatever he wants, and obviously it worked and he convinced, but I don't take too much from that, because if Turkey is passing out money, then you want to be a part of that. So you could be just doing it for the money and like rolling the dice, hoping like, hey, at worst case scenario, we're getting a payday. We'll finally clear $1 million, and Shakur, I don't know if he can knock us out. So we like that. We have a chance to hurt him. We're underestimating him. We don't think he can knock us out. Plus we're making $1 million. So that's enough to make people jump. But more often than in these instances, I feel like the dare to be great and all the stuff, if it seemed like it don't make sense, from what I notice in boxing, usually it don't make sense. And I adjust my commentary as such. Like when Kell Brook moved up 2 weight classes from 47 to 60 to fight a guy who had 21 knockouts in a row, Gennady had no guys had marks, his guys his punch nothing. Tick 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 nah. Right? I told you then, just like I said before, during, and after, that fight made no sense. And guess what? Kell Brook's career was never the same after that Triple G fight. Orbital injury, then he lost his other eye in the Arrow fight. Rest is history. Never looked like the same fighter after those 2 fights. Boom. Amir Khan. Canelo knocked a snot rocket out of Amir Khan's nose, and he was asleep with his eyes open. I was born ready. Told you that didn't make sense. Khan moving up from 47 to 55 to fight no heavy-handed Canelo at 55 Canelo weight. Again, more often than not, if you really study the sport, that dare to be great where it don't seem like it makes sense or the timing seems off, it usually is, you know? It usually is, but people in this modern age, they get caught up in the hype. Like, look at the experience with Caleb Plant and Canelo. Caleb had never fought anyone professionally like a Canelo, and although it was semi-competitive or pretty competitive, you've seen the outcome. Canelo having all that experience, 50, 60 fights, whatever he got, it was too much, and he knocked out Caleb Plant, right? These are the examples. These are the examples of boxing. What I've noticed is more often than not, when it feels funny, it usually is. Or if you see a fighter and you're like, this fighter's washed, and you've been saying that for quite some time, it usually don't get better for the fighter. People are always waiting for the miraculous George Foreman, Michael Moore moments. Yes, they happen, but they happen periodically and it's very spaced out where you see that. Most of the time, when I think of fighter like Vic Darchinyan, I'm like, damn, he washed. It just keep getting worse and he keep getting knocked out. And a guy who seemed to be pretty durable earlier in his career, he just keep getting knocked out. You start seeing it. That's why you look at a lot of boxers. I study this sport. I respect this sport. Boxing has changed my life in so many ways. I owe it all to the sport of boxing, right? And if you study the history, you'll see that a lot of fighters, when you start looking at their resume and they got 7, 8, double digit, 12, 26 losses and all that, watch it. It's because they kept lingering on, kept fighting for a paycheck, and a lot of them losses were at the back half of the career, like DeMarcus Corley. Yes, he was losing to Floyd, and he did lose fights, Cotto or whatever, but you look at it, he just kept fighting and kept fighting and kept fighting, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and they just kept tacking. And then I think it kind of gets to a point where if you got 26 losses or whatever you got so many losses, like it almost don't even matter anymore. You kind of fighting for a paycheck and fighting for whatever reason, because that's the only skill you know or whatever. So that's my rant. I had to go in on this. Me, I'm not looking for no fireworks with this particular fight, Shakur and Floyd Schofield. And the thing too is I always speak truthful. I always keep it real. I don't care if I'm wrong. That's the difference. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sometimes it's a pleasant surprise, because then that means everything I said was capped, and then the fight turned out to be an upset, or the fight turned out to be like super involving and entertaining. So I wouldn't mind being wrong, but I got a gut feeling. And you know, when Ego Stradamus get that feeling, it's over. We unpack.